In this video, we'll show you how to cut your bench tops. We'll show you how to cut and join bench tops on a 45-degree angle. This method is the most DIY-friendly way, as attempting a mason's miter cut is often difficult due to the profile of the bench tops, which need precision cutting tools. For the most part, it's recommended that if you require a mason's miter join, that you arrange for this to be cut professionally. For butt joining bench tops, the overall process is similar, so follow this information as a guide, paying special attention to the instructions that cover any variations in the amount of bore holes required and any cutting techniques. The first thing to do is to measure the total length of bench top needed and establish where any cuts and joins are required based on the modular lengths. Avoid any joins being positioned under the location of your sink and cooktop, and always remember to take any end panels and benchtop overhang into consideration. Once you've established your benchtop plan, start with cutting the 45-degree angles. Use a tape measure to measure the width of the benchtop and then use this measurement across the length to give you the 45-degree angle. Then apply low adhesion masking tape to the top of the benchtop, the underside and the edges to avoid the surface chipping and splintering. Mark the 45-degree cut line on top of the masking tape. You'll need to clamp a straight edge to the benchtop for the cut. This straight edge does not go exactly against the marked cutting line, as you need to allow for the base plate of your circular saw. To determine where this should be positioned, measure the distance of the saw blade to the edge of the saw's base plate, which will vary depending on the model of your circular saw. Clamp the straight edge at the correct distance, parallel to the marked cutting line, ensuring that it is clamped to the underside of the benchtop. Make sure the clamps you use have soft jaws or suitable protection is placed on the surface of the benchtop to avoid damaging the surface. Before you cut the benchtop, it's recommended that someone else helps you by holding the offcut during the cutting process. It's also important that you always use safety gear when using power tools and ensure all relevant safety precautions have been taken. Set the circular saw blade approximately 10 mm deeper than the thickness of your benchtop on a right angle to create a vertical cut. Then simply cut the benchtop, making sure you keep the base of the saw against the straight edge for the entire cut. We recommend that the saw blade enters from the front edge of the benchtop, as this will be the visible side and will eliminate any chipping in this area. Once both benchtops have been cut, it's time to start preparing for benchtop joins. On the underside of the benchtop, measure in and mark a straight line 20 mm back from the cut edge. This line is the edge of where the bore holes will be positioned for the benchtop joiners. Next, measure in and mark 100 mm from both ends of the benchtop. You'll then need to add in 2 extra bore hole locations in between these holes. So divide the remaining space by 3 and mark these locations. The next step is to drill holes in the underside of the benchtop for the benchtop joiners. Use a 35 mm hinge bore bit to a depth of 17 mm, making sure the edge of the hole is on the line drawn earlier. If you believe that your bore bit may protrude through the benchtop, reduce the plane depth of the hole. This will need to be considered, as benchtops can vary in thickness. Then, create a 10 mm wide cavity from the bore hole to the edge of the cut benchtop. Mark a centre line and measure 5 mm out in either direction. Using a fine-tooth wood saw and a chisel, create a channel to the same depth as the bore hole. Once completed, the underside of your benchtop will look like this. Follow the link below to see how to join your Kaboodle benchtops.